Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. This video begins in a garden. It is a very nice garden belonging to Ronnie Cann, Professor Emeritus of Linguistics and English Language of the University of Edinburgh. I like watching the house martins feeding their young in the eaves of his house, a house which, according to legend, was visited several times by the famous poet Robert Burns. Now the Professor is the gardener, and the garden is his ever-changing memorial tribute to his late husband, Robert. This video will be majority riverwalking, mudlarking. That is the genre of video I'm most comfortable making. We, my girlfriend and I, are currently on our first holiday since the beginning of the pandemic, heading up through Scotland to spend a week with her family in the Cairngorms National Park. Along the way we're visiting Ronnie, a friend of her family, and her sister, who lives on the outskirts of Edinburgh, near the river known as the Water of Leith, where I intend to do a bit of river walking. First though, a little walk around the garden. I can tell you that the house was built in 1840. I cannot tell you much about the plants here though. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that plant names are one of the things that I struggle mightily to remember, and if they're not something I forage or have to avoid, then the names tend to evaporate. Bluebells, moss, ferns and rhododendrons, I know, but not this variety of rhododendron. Nice flowers, and the bees agree. Blue, so blue, hints of the sky with accents of lapis lazuli. Poppy, I think. Do correct me if I'm mistaken. This is the waters of Moffat, a small river that used to be a big part of the success of the nearby spa town, having sulphurous alkaline waters and iron springs, considered to be good for what ailed you in 17th and 18th century Scotland. Such mineralisation does make me question the possibilities of, say, panning for gold on that little beach over there, and it's not all that far from the Lothian Hills, which is and has been a centre of gold panning pursuits in Scotland for centuries. I shall ask the Professor about it. Apparently there have been prospectors in the river from time to time, but not with much success. And back to the garden. We're here in the spring, May time, and I do like the spring flowers. I would love to come back in the summer though, see the summer flowers and how the recently planted beds turn out. That looks like a more formally planted part of the garden. A commissioned artwork piece by Estonian artist Tõnis Krisa. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. I like it. Hands have been a recurring theme in my own amateur artistic attempts. I used to draw them a lot and wasn't bad at it, and have tried sculpting them too. That I am bad at. Wood sorrel, probably my second favourite wild leaf to forage after wild garlic, a lemony taste which is from oxalic acid. The woodland, at least as far as the next bend of the river, is all part of this garden. I won't be able to explore it all on this visit, but there's a spruce wood, a birch wood, a willow mead and a water meadow and sculptures, and it is open to the public. By appointment though, during the pandemic. Have to say I really like the trees here, striking poses and looking all wind-tortured and moody. There's some varieties I'm familiar with, some rarities and some old favourites like oak. It's a relatively young garden, a mix of formal and as informal as it can get. I hope I can visit again in future years and different seasons. It is the next day, and I'm in the outskirts of Edinburgh in a village called Curry. Roughly the same pronunciation as the food dishes, but a different and somewhat uncertain etymology, either from the Scottish Gaelic word curragh, meaning a wet or boggy plain, or from out of a Brythonic group of languages, curry, meaning a dirt hole or dell. Insalubrious meaning in either origin, but it's now quite a nice place, a lot of birdsong and spring growth, and it has an important river running right through it, the Water of Leith, Edinburgh's main river. One day I hope to take the walk from here into Edinburgh city centre. It's roughly 7 miles from here, and there is a path all the way that runs alongside the river. Today though, I'm going to walk up the river in the water and see what I can find, hoping for old and interesting relics and recyclables, and I'll trash pick along the way. The oldest human relic ever found here is a Bronze Age razor, dating from around about 1800 BC, so there's been human activity here for at least 3,800 years. I doubt I'll find any human relic that old, but I live in hope. First thing I need to find is a way down to the river. Well, that seems unlikely. I think it would need to be weather we have never seen before in the UK that could rise it to anywhere near the top of that measure. It goes to 5 metres. That's something for me to look up later, the historic high water level here. That in particular interests me. I guess because it's something I have to pay attention to in my local rivers, which flood increasingly often. Anyway, a vaguely interesting looking stone. The interesting pattern in it reminds me of somebody that I used to know. The song and video of that name. Let's see if the water brings it out more. No, it kind of disappears. I do wonder though if I could polish it up and bring out that pattern, so I might take it. Some chain links that I think are attached to the big slab of concrete. They're really stuck in there. Is that ancient pottery? Not sure. I'm erring on the side of natural stone. On one side it does look like ancient coral pottery, and on the other, sandstone. There isn't really much to find so far. On the plus side, I guess it's quite a clean river. There are a few bits of pottery. Almost all of what I've seen though is quite plain so far. A robin egg, I think. I like robins, savagely territorial, but friendly to me. Or at least ever hopeful that I might have some food for them, or disturb the ground and leave food exposed. First bit of pottery with a pattern. Not something I would usually take, but I'd like to take at least some souvenirs, and so far there isn't much. This, I think, is as far downstream as I'm going to go, just far enough to see the bridge properly. 1890 something, I think. Maybe early 1900s, but apparently there has been a bridge here for at least 500 years. Car radio. Wow, some age on that. Long time since cassette players were the common feature. Little wriggly things living on it. Try to gently rinse them off. I don't really want the thing, but don't think it should be left in the river either. Looks like some slag glass. Yeah, a sign that there was once iron workings upstream. Not surprising really, but the reading I did before coming here didn't reveal any. I just turned the camera off when I spotted this. Nice, vibrant colour, and the dull brown of oxidized brass hiding down here. It looks ornamental. This, I think, probably surrounded a handle on a moderately grand piece of furniture, maybe a sideboard, probably 18th to 19th century. Can't actually tell at the moment if it was hand or machine cut, but I think machine and mid-19th century is most likely. Have to say, even though the geology is different, the watercolour is very close to the rivers I'm used to, the rich brown of peat sediment. Plain. The shoulder of a stoneware pot, fairly common for me to find full intact ones of these. This river really does feel familiar. And that looks remarkably like a lawnmower. Yes, now do I want it? Kind of. I think it'd be quite a challenge to restore something like this. Might even make a good video. But is there enough of it? It's missing part of the wheel, and that would be a most difficult part to refabricate. I think I'll just appreciate the rust, the beauty of decay, and stick to simpler, lighter restoration projects for the time being. Wild garlic. A wonderful find. Not enough to make a pesto with, but enough to chew on a leaf or two as I walk. Plastic. Vulcanite. Bottle stopper. Oh, it says Edinburgh. Now this is my idea of a good tourist souvenir. Dunbar and Co. Around about 100 years old. I shall be able to look them up, learn a bit about them, and if there's an interesting story about the company and all the people, then so much the better. That looks interesting. Brick colour. Bit of copper wire. No, steel wire, which I like less than copper wire, but can still be useful and a bit more plastic out of the river. Now this thing. Danger, electricity. Baldwin, registered des? I do know someone who'd probably like this. It is big, it is heavy, and it's not quite a brick, though made of the same material. Am I really contemplating carrying this? Yeah, why not? I think there's a fair to good chance that Phil of Let's Go With The Johnsons will like it. And that's unexpected. Signs of another riverwalker, possibly a mudlarker. Looks fresh. I do like trying to restore old tools. New hobby of mine. This, though, might be a little past it. Yeah, that's not viable metal. I'll take the plastic handle. I wonder if the aesthetic principles on display here will one day be as appreciable as the old bridges. This water looks a little too deep for my boots today, so no easy path along the edge. Up onto the hillside it is. Rusting car wheel. Do shout out if you see anything interesting. I thought that this might be copper. It isn't. Instead, I think it might be leather, in which case it's marginally more interesting trying to figure out what its use could once have been. No idea yet. I'm not finding much yet, but I don't mind. It's just nice being out exploring in nature with the sounds of water and birdsong. Part of a marmalade jar, just like I find back home. And piece of plain tile. The camera won't be seeing them yet, but there does appear to be some young mudlarkers ahead, just past that bridge. Not 100% certain they are mudlarkers, but I just saw one of them reaching into the water and then take a good look at what it was they pulled out. I hope they don't feel too much like I'm an interloper in their territory. Something round-ish. Ah, I know what it is. Yes, bird feeder, half a coconut shell. Now, will it float? It wallows. Perhaps if I get rid of the mud. Yeah, that's better. Safe travels, little coconut shell. See if you can make it to the Firth of Forth. It looks like another one of those warning bricks. Never seen one in a river before, and two in this one. Thankfully it's in worse condition, and I don't have to feel like it was a waste of effort carrying the one I found earlier, at least until I find a third in mint condition. Phil, if you want this one as well, it's right here. Water of Leith, about 40 metres downstream of that little footbridge, and around about 100 metres upstream of Curry Bridge. Oh, now that is a curious piece of metal. Looks like either two large square nails rusted together, or a very unusual little pickaxe. I'll take it, try to figure out what it was and what it could become. More footprints. Does anyone who watches my videos mudlark here? I found a brick. Thistle, the national flower of Scotland, and I would guess that this is a fairly common brick hereabouts. Yep, some more thistle bricks, and I think this young housing estate sits now on the site of the Kinleaf paper mills, a place of industry since at least the 17th century. Must have been a considerable challenge for the developers dealing with the inevitable contamination. When I looked up this site before coming here, there were pictures of tunnels beneath, probably to carry water from the river into the mill complex. Wonder if I will find any remnant of them. I like tunnels. The other mudlarkers have gone, and they have left what they have found and do not want. I don't really want any of this either, but I do want to see what I can see that they did not. Fairly nice little piece of green transfer wear. Might be nice enough to make into a necklace one day. Right on the beach where the mudlarkers lark, a little blue bead. I think it's glass, but I don't think it's particularly old. First intact glass bottle of this outing. Not old though, and not particularly interesting. This might be quite old though. Simple brass wire, not all that commonly used these days. I'll take it, melt it, turn it into something new. I can actually hear that swarm of whatever they are above the sound of the water. Not midges or mosquitoes, so nice to see. and I don't think they'll bite me. Ah, nice. A nice big piece of copper pipe. I've been hoping I'd find some of this for a craft project. I have found a lot in the past, but all of that I've crushed flat to save on space. This I will keep as a tube until I'm ready to cut it up, though to put it in the bag I will have to break it into 3 or 4 pieces. A gorgeous tree, and an intriguing little side stream. Intriguing because there's some pottery in the outflow beach and there looks to be a tunnel. Mostly terracotta, which could be brick or roof tile pieces. But isn't that just the prettiest little fairy tale tunnel? Victorian era stonework, I think. Well, this is a pleasant little side valley. I wasn't expecting anything in particular, maybe houses. And there are houses further up the hillside, and a graveyard. Not sure where all the pottery came from though. Now, why would that be there? A little hanging bit of metal with a little loop. Was it to hang a barrier? A lot of smaller bridge tunnels like this have wooden gate-like barriers across the upstream tunnel entrance that stop large branches being swept in and damaging the stonework, but usually they'd be set into the side and not suspended from the top. Any other ideas? A closer inspection of the outflow beach reveals some stoneware, bottom of a ginger beer bottle. The rim of a large dough rising bowl could be from anywhere between the 17th and 20th centuries. I do need to read up further on pottery identification. Plastic, probably 21st century. More plastic, and I think that's everything of interest. So, onwards. More pottery, a bit of pattern on it, edge of a plate. Some more terracotta with the slip glaze, and I could possibly use it in a craft project. Getting close to my endpoint now. It's a weir, a fairly large and impressive one by the standards of what I'm used to. Bigger in large part because there isn't as much of a drop on this section of river as for much steeper streams of West Yorkshire, where even fairly large mills could be powered by small streams. Looks interesting. I think toy tank. There is a YouTube channel I follow of somebody that could probably restore this. I'll take it, and if it's old and rare and he wants it, he can have it. Corgi toys. Something I really like doing is walking along the edges of weirs. Don't know yet if this one will be safe enough. Closer to, the weir is going to be very noisy, so I think this time I'll just write on screen anything I find rather than trying to be heard above it. think I might be just about audible again now, in time for some copper pipe. I'll take it, but I was hoping for interesting older things. That's more like it. A huge hinge off, maybe a barn door or a door from an old mill. Not something I really want to take, but I do like finding such things. And that looks like a bike. Where I grew up, this would be called a goit. Elsewhere, it's a feeder channel. I don't think it would be classed as a mill race, because it looks more like something that fed into a mill pond and then into a steam engine, rather than a water wheel. Didn't see a mill pond on my way up here, but that would probably be under the new housing estate I passed. I wonder if that tunnel I passed under carries this channel as well as that path. I'm running very low on battery and my spare is back at my back about 50 metres downstream. I do hope there'll be enough left to film some of what I'm about to attempt. A roundup time. I did run out of battery. That day was a very warm and humid day for spring, and humidity seems to run down the battery almost as fast as cold conditions. It was filmed towards the end of May 2021. It's taken so long to put out because I now have a stack of footage and files so big that at the rate I'm going I won't get to the end of them for at least another year, by which time I will inevitably have filmed more and more. But getting out there and finding things is the most appealing part of this hobby, so I will do so. Back to the battery. It beeped and went off just as I was about halfway along the weir. I went a bit further, but not all the way across. And to address anyone's concerns, the top lip of the weir is a place of relative calm in terms of river conditions, and I am sure-footed and very careful when I'm walking in obviously dangerous spots. So yes, walking along the edge of a weir is quite dangerous. I wouldn't recommend that anyone else does it. But I would argue that it's not actually as dangerous as walking in some river conditions, where the lack of obvious danger breeds complacence. There is no complacence at the top of a weir, just intense concentration and a mind so purely in the moment that it is hard to match. I didn't find enough in that river to suggest the possibility of an old dump site further upstream, but the presence of other mudlarkers on that river might possibly obfuscate one, and if in future I'm up there for a few days, I'll try and research the area a bit more, see if I can find a few other places to film, and maybe get to the foreshore of the Firth of Forth too and film with any of the local channels who want to meet up, like Serendip ID, Scottish Mudlarking, Northern Mudlarks. I'd like that. It was only a short overnight stay in the outskirts of Edinburgh, and later that day I drove us about 130 miles further north for a quiet week in the Cairngorms National Park. I shot another video there. Not a mountain video, though I would certainly like to do so one day. maybe climb the mountain that gives the park its name, and maybe also look in streams in the foothills for some gemstones. There's Cairngorm, a translucent smoky quartz ranging from yellow to amber to dark brown that approaches black, and beryl and a few much rarer crystals related to beryllium, like phenakite, bertrandite and gentlevite. And there's also topaz and gold. Gone off on a few tangents there, as I do tend to do when the finds are few. So, the finds. There was a lot more pottery than I took. I didn't find much that I wanted, and most of this isn't really good for any of the things I want to do with pottery. I think I took it so it wouldn't feel now like I found nothing much. I did find a nice vulcanite stopper, which I'm very happy with. Hope to find one local to everywhere I visit. That could become quite a strange and wonderful memento collection. Sadly, couldn't find anything much about the business whose branding is on this. It was a soft drinks company in the early part of the 20th century, short-lived and long gone. After electrolysis and scrubbing with a wire brush, until it looked like it couldn't take much more, I'm still very unsure what this iron spike once was. I think the two parts are welded together rather than wedded by rust. There's no sign of where a handle may have been, so I don't think it was a tiny rock hammer. No railway alongside the river, so I don't think it's rail spikes either. Any ideas? The corky toy tank is in pretty rough condition and missing quite a lot, and it's not all that old or rare. On reflection, I don't think it's something really worthy of sending to a restoration channel. Some copper, some brass, not much of historical interest, but always welcome finds for me. And of course, the biggest, heaviest find of the day was the Danger Electricity brick material thing, which I guess would have been a small part of a very large mill complex. I gave that away several months ago to my friend Phil Johnson of Let's Go With the Johnsons, who enjoys finding bricks and has a bit of a collection. That's the finds, and now the thanks. It has been a rough few months, and I haven't been working effectively at all, so thank you again for your patience. I do hope that one day soon I shall make a successful return to a regular upload schedule. A great big thank you to everyone who's donated through Ko-fi. Before starting making mudlarking videos, I was quite poor, and now I am still quite poor, but I have some good camera equipment, a nice laptop to edit on, tools and materials for crafting with, and I'm close to the target point of affording a decent small drone too. I am incredibly grateful for all the generosity that has come my way. I do not know how often I'll employ the use of a drone. I travel as light as I can on river walks, and some of the dump sites I visit have too much tree cover to fly one, but I do at least have a few videos planned so far where aerial footage would be a great addition. And from my Amazon wish lists I have received kind gifts. A big thank you to my friends Caroline and Phil who bought this box of delectables for me and Rowena. They're similar to hummus but with added wild mushrooms. 3 different varieties, chanterelle, porcini and black trumpet. I've wanted to try them for quite a while and I think and hope that they'll be nice. Thank you so much Caroline and Phil. A big thank you to Lexi Bookshi, who bought these New England Cookie Company assorted shortbread selection for me and Rowena. We've both really enjoyed everything we've had from this company. Thanks so much, Lexi. A big thank you to Eddie Karpinski, who bought me this Asterix Omnibus book, number 4, containing 3 stories. A long time ago, Asterix was my introduction to comic books. I borrowed them from the travelling library, which would park up near my rural home once every 2 weeks. Asterix and Tintin, both of which have some problematic racial and sexist representations, not particularly egregious examples, and I can still enjoy these as a flashback, reliving my childhood sort of a thing. Thank you very much, Eddie. And last but by no means least, a big thank you to Alison Webster, who very kindly bought me 2 books. This is a collection of short stories from the Rivers of London series by Ben Aronovich. I admit I got it before Christmas, and I couldn't wait for this roundup to read it. I enjoyed it. And this beautiful book is a compendium of every known drawing and painting by Leonardo da Vinci, including his inventions, some of which I fancy making some models of. Thank you so much, Alison, and thank you again, Lexi, for giving me that idea. Finally, a big thank you to everyone who's liked, commented on and or shared my videos. Such interactions really do help my channel to grow. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any show of appreciation is very much appreciated. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, looking after yourself and loved ones as best you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.